Hey guys, another DotP One coming at you. I got to sit down last week with AnneeDroid. I say that wrong like 5 times this interview. I call her AnneeDroid like 5 times. I'm really dumb. And I don't know why. No, I do know why. It's the double E. It's the double E. It makes me want to say Annie. It makes me want to say Annie. I don't. My brain. Why brain? But anyway, it was a great interview. She talks about coming up as a caster, offers a lot of really useful advice for people who are interested in casting. And she's just an all-around nice person with a lot of great insight into the scene. I really enjoyed getting the opportunity to sit down and chat with her. Just another great representative from the folks over there at Moonduck. And I recommend following her on Twitter. She's at AnneeDroid, ANNEEDROID. That's at AnneeDroid. You can find her, folks, and you should definitely follow her and give her a shout out and let her know that you enjoyed hearing her over here on .p. Like I said, a ton of really great and interesting stuff. You're going to get to hear it. I just want to give a couple of quick plugs for the show. We are defenseofthepatients.com. You can also find us over on Patreon, patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. Right now, if you donate as little as $1, you can become a patron in the .p Discord. That's at discord.gg/.p. Of course, there are other great rewards. As the new website rolls out, we're going to have the new wall of .peeps, where for $10 you can get your name listed there. And for $20, you can get a replay analysis done from Ursinity, from Proud, from Roland, or if you're really desperate, me. If you're really desperate. Of course, you can also email us defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. Send all those Tuesday Q&A questions, all that good stuff. Of course, remember to call in, or you can leave a voicemail, 888-410-7150. Let us know what your questions are for the Q&A. And hell, maybe we'll try to get AnneeDroid to come back sometime and do a Q&A and get your listener questions. I'm sure you guys can think of a ton of great questions that I probably missed. So, yeah. All right. Without further ado, here is the .p One-on-One, the second in the series so far, with AnneeDroid. You are listening to a .p One-on-One. Pyrian Flax, welcome to the show, sir.
Hello.
That is Casey Atchison. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Sunfan.
Hello, friends. It's been a long time.
Mott, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once again. Very excited to be here.
Austin, Capitalist Walsh. Welcome to the show, Cap.
Thank you very much, man. It's good to be back.
Special guest, Sir Action Slacks. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another .p One-on-One. I'm Cyphus, as usual. But today, I get to sit here with the one and only, famous for her DPL cast back in the day. I think that's where everybody first got to know her. The one and only AnneeDroid.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, nice to be here, man.
Yeah, Proud, co-host of the Proudland on Monday and Theorycraft Thursdays on Thursday. I know he did an interview with you at TI6 when we were there, and unfortunately, somehow we lost all of the audio from that day of interviews.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I think it might have been my fault, too. I'm pretty sure I was messing with the memory stick on the Tascam. It's a little handheld that we were using to go around. It looks like a taser. Scares the shit out of everybody. I'm pretty sure that it was me. I think it was my fault, but don't tell Proud.
I won't, man. That's between us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And the listeners, of course. You guys don't tell Proud. So you've been working with Moonduck now for how long?
I'm real bad at counting, but probably like 6 months. They, I think, recruited me in late June, and the announcement was made official in July. So,
you guys are actually all living out in Colorado together at the Moonduck house, basically, right?
Yeah, not all of us. It's just me, Mott, and Zayori, but it's been a lot of fun so far. We're really close to Slacks, pretty close to Grant, so events are always fun. Just meeting up with those guys to go out to dinner is great. Yeah,
I don't need your address, and we don't want you to give it out here on the show, but like, where are you, in Denver proper, or are you guys in like an outside town or somewhere around Denver?
We're in that midpoint between Denver and Boulder, so best of both worlds there.
Are you enjoying it? I mean, it's got to be a blast. It's got to be nuts around that house, right? It's just got to be nonstop nonsense.
It is so much fun. I mean, it's just like a family. It's best friends that live together, and it's kind of weird, but for the first time ever, I feel like I really have that crew. I work with these guys, I live with them, I game with them, and no matter what happens, they're going to be by my side. So it's been a lot of fun. You know, those fights about who's doing the dishes are always there with any roommates, but we can also just sit around and talk shit about our pubs, you know, talk about gaming in general. We have lots of board games we play together, TV series we're watching together. So it's like a little family here at Moonduck.
So do you feel like it's made you better at Dota as a player, as a personal player?
I don't know if it's made me better, but it's definitely made me more aware of things. You know, you see everyone pubbing all day long and you kind of get that spark to go play yourself. Whereas if you're living alone, it's pretty easy just to be like, yeah, I don't feel like Dota today.
I don't understand that. I won't lie. I guess I did have I had a brief stint that I received a ton of crap for. I went 2 weeks without Dota, which, you know, when you're hosting a like 5-day-a-week Dota podcast, it irked a lot of people that I would even dare try to take that long off from the game. But it's nice to take a break every once in a while. It's good to do. So I will say more often than not, yeah, I don't think I could really. I have the bug. I have to get a game in, at least a game a day.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get that Dota bug bite and you just got to go play like 10 pubs a day. But then there's weeks that you just kind of burn out. And it's like, I cast a Dota all yesterday. I played pubs all the day before. And I just kind of want to not look at a screen and get that invested. I want to go outside and remember that there's an actual real world going on. So it's nice to take time off every once in a while.
I can definitely understand that. So where did you grow up? Let's get before all the Dota stuff. Where did AnneeDroid, where did young AnneeDroid spend her days?
Yeah, just Android for future. I grew up in a little...
Android, okay. Oh, I'm terrible. I feel terrible.
It's all right. I grew up in a little beach town outside of Boston in Massachusetts. So definitely different world than Denver, but I really liked it. I was, 20 feet away from the ocean at all times. It was a lot of fun, a lot of time outdoors, very sporty as a kid, and didn't even play competitive games until late high school, and I actually didn't have my own computer until I was like 18 and a half. So gaming came into my life a little bit later than most people.
What first games did you get going on? What was your first draw into the world of gaming?
I mean, like, my very first draw was that my older brother liked Final Fantasy and Fire Emblem and those type of games, so I would just sit and watch as, like, the fascinated younger sister. But the first time I started playing, I think I picked up TF2 and just kind of noodled around with that. I was never very good, but that was my first taste of, massive multiplayer online gaming. There we go.
Yep. And then I noticed that your Wikipedia page said that you went to college in New York.
I did.
Where did you go?
I went to Skidmore College, and I have a dual degree, minor in education, major in geology. So that's a combination that has absolutely nothing to do with casting.
So you're one of those people that probably enjoys those really terrible geology jokes about geology rocking and all that good stuff.
Oh,
right?
it's the best. I actually worked all through college just to, help pay tuition and keep expenses up. I worked in the geology lab that we have on campus, and that was a lot of fun. My last year, I got to be a supervisor. So basically just put on a Twitch stream and make sure no
geology
lights
lab?
on fire. Yeah, it's pretty easy going most of the time. For the first 2 or 3 years, I was the lackey. If someone needed photocopying done, if they needed someone to rearrange the displays or, count the amount of crinoids in this little slab of limestone, I was there. But the supervisor year was fun. I just kind of did my own thing, got to be the boss.
Did you initially think that you were going to try to pursue, it sounds like, a career in teaching?
Career in, paleontology. I always wanted that museum experience. I wanted to be that person that found the skeletons and cleaned them off and articulated them. But, working in the lab kind of made me realize it's super fun and I enjoy it, but I don't think I can see myself doing that, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. It's just not fulfilling enough for me. It separates me too much from that living world where things are going on and there's, deadlines and time passing. Working with a 30 million year old skeleton can do that to you.
Yeah, I can only imagine. My girlfriend is kind of in the same vein, but is pursuing the anthropology route for all of that. And man, some of the I see her going through just stacks of books and journals. I think of late they've all been about the various types of foliage eaten by chimpanzees in a very particular region of Africa. And I just think to myself, no, that is not the life for me.
I mean, it's still something I really find interesting, and I watch. Mott can tell you I watch so many science documentaries that he wants to just melt his eyes out whenever he walks into the living room. But, it's still fascinating and I still love to learn, but I don't think I could do it as a career. It's just not fulfilling enough for me personally.
If you were to ever pursue something outside of Dota, or outside of esports for a career, what do you think you'd want to go into?
Probably medical stuff. I definitely had a lot of interaction with the medical fields as a teenager, and I really liked, some of the procedure stuff. I never got wigged out by blood. I always kind of found it cool to see how the procedures worked and how MRI machines worked and what kind of stuff you can tell from different scans. So probably, nursing or some sort of field in that area.
Sure. So, am I correct in thinking that I think for most people, where you kind of popped on the radar for them was the marathon casting stint that you did for the DPL tournament? That was back in like May or April. Am I right about the time frame there?
End of May is when the first game started, and it went all the way through June, and that was definitely when I had my big boom. I'd been casting for about a year and a half before that. So definitely a very slow grind up. You really got to be determined. You really got to keep at it. But the cool thing was I knew immediately, like when that burst was. It was that Reddit thread. I think I got linked to it when I had like 9 upvotes. And I'm like, this is it. Someone noticed that I'm working hard, that I can do this, that I've got the determination. And it was such an overwhelming feeling of satisfaction. Like everything I'd worked for was suddenly being realized by these thousands of people. And then the stream was flooded with like 15,000 views for me solo casting for 9 hours straight. It was amazing.
So how did you do it without losing your voice? I know that's the one thing that everybody wondered the entire time, because you were doing some pretty intensive play-by-play in every game for that long of a stretch. What were you doing to keep your voice alive?
Stay hydrated, man. Always having that big cup of water next to you. No, but I definitely did lose my voice like immediately after DPL ended, and you could tell, some of the later nights, some of the later casts that I was doing, I was definitely getting raspy.
So, but you mentioned you were doing casting for about a year and a half before that. What inspired you to get into? Well, let's start with Dota 2. What inspired you to get into Dota 2 in general?
Oh, revenge story here. My senior year of high school was dating a League of Legends player, and we had kind of a nasty breakup, and I was like, all right, I want to do something that A, is going to take my mind off everything, and B, will piss him off. So I got a Dota beta key because he was real anti-Dota, and I learned how to play, and my high school friends started stacking with me, and it was one of the most fun summers I've ever had. Well,
now the joke's on him, because here you are, one of the brightest up-and-coming casters in all of Dota 2. Surely he knows, right? Surely he has some idea that's what's going on.
I don't have much contact, but I guess so. Whatever it is, karma worked out in my favor, and I'm feeling good.
We just got to start going and trolling the League of Legends Reddit, Just,
no, I got nothing against League. I used to play myself a little bit. I think I have like a level 29 account. I think it's a incredibly valid game, but I made my choice, and I'm real happy I chose Dota.
So at what point how long into Dota did you decide that you wanted to start casting? What was it that kind of inspired that?
Definitely TI3. That was the event that made me really get sucked into the esports world, as opposed to just sitting around playing pubs. I think I watched it, all the way from the qualifiers until the group stage, and then I followed Alliance all the way through. They were my favorite team, and when they made it to the grand finals, I had that like fangirl feeling that I haven't felt since I was like 13 and heard my first boy band, and it was like the best. This was awesome. I loved the event. I loved the energy. I loved that people were getting so invested into a video game. There was this whole world built up about this thing that I was already falling in love with, and that was it. It just clicked.
I have to ask, because of my journalistic integrity, what was your first boy band?
Oh God, this is so shameful. I got really into Tokyo Hotel, which don't Google. We're gonna leave.
Don't Google.
We're just gonna leave that part of Annie's life behind.
All right, we'll fix it in post. Don't worry. So that was kind of what kind of sparked the desire to start casting. But like, when did you first pick it up? What was your very first cast?
My very first cast was off of the R Dota 2 Cast It subreddit, which now I moderate for, which is kind of that full circle thing, which is where people just kind of upload fun pub matches they had with cool back and forths or mega creeps or fun hero combinations, and just kind of picked a game that looked real intimidating and recorded myself stumbling over every word and just kept going from there.
And then is that something you just kind of kept going back to, trying to work on? What was your process for trying to improve, to move forward with it?
Definitely listening back to a lot of my own casts. I had listened to enough professionally casted games that I was kind of making that mental checklist of things to talk about when and how to fluctuate your energy levels to match the pace of the game. So I probably did, 15 or 20 casts just right off that subreddit of, people's pub games for free just to get practice. And then once I found a couple casts I really liked, I would reach out to amateur tournaments and be like, hey, this is my casting work. What do you say? You let me cast a couple games for free, and just kept up with that grind and eventually worked my way up to really, really low-paying tournaments and slightly mid-tier tournaments. And, well, that's it. You just keep applying for jobs and moving up.
Do you feel like at times it's ever daunting going into a cast? Because I would imagine I have no desire to be a caster. I don't think I could. I don't think I could store and immediately regurgitate the information that I need to in any particular moment to save my life about Dota. Probably, I'm sure I would screw something up. I'm sure I would provide. I'm sure that people would go back through and there would be a long list of every inaccuracy that I spouted from my mouth in the heat of a moment. Right down to maybe even the names of spells. I'm sure I would just screw that up all the time. Do you ever feel? Is there ever a level of dauntingness about a cast, or do you feel like you've gotten to a point where you do you do it enough that it's kind of just secondhand at this point? Is it? You know what I'm asking? Like, is it?
Yeah.
Is there so much information that it becomes overwhelming?
I think it definitely gets better as practice. You can go back and watch my first cast. It's still on my YouTube, and it's me trying to cast a Meepo game, and the team fights are just me with my jaw open, not knowing what to say. So there's definitely an element of building up over time. But for me, going into every cast is like you're opening up that storybook, and there's going to be a game that happens within a set amount of time. There's a beginning, a middle, and end, and there's storylines for every hero, and you can even get real deep, think about whatever neutral creep's going through. There's just so much to talk about. So it's kind of that, as the game starts, you just dive into this world that's self-contained in this game, and it's an amazing story to tell.
So what would you advise to... So I know there are folks out there who are interested in casting or who appreciate the game enough that that's something they want to try to do. What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about delving into that world, who wants to try to pick it up? What would you tell them that they need to do? What's the first step along the way?
I think you got to go into it with really realistic expectations. I think if you go into it thinking I'm going to be the next TI caster, it's almost always going to be disappointment. I went into it just because I enjoyed doing it. I thought it was a cool hobby. I enjoyed it as much as playing the game. So I would just, play a pub, record a cast, play a pub, just kind of interchange that. And, just listen back to your own work, keep picking out things that you can improve on, keep watching professional games and listening to what professional casters are doing to engage the audience. And it's very much a monkey see, monkey do kind of profession where you figure it out as you go. But it's tough in that it is an element of show business, and there's more qualified, reliable, hardworking casters than there are jobs to be filled.
Yeah, and the casters get criticized a lot. It's rare that you see a cast go by without somebody having some form of negative critique about what they've done or something they've said. How do you feel whenever you see that kind of stuff? I mean, I'm sure that you probably run into all sorts of terrible stuff on the internet. I know that we do.
Yeah.
Here and there.
How
do you overcome that negative critique?
Being anyone in the public light, you kind of have to have that ultra thick skin, but there's also a very important skill of separating what's just pure flame and bullshit from actual criticism, maybe phrased a little bit mean or said not in the best way, but being able to actually draw out what people don't like and what caused people to flame you in the first place is super important. If you can figure out what about their casting is going to be... my screen popped out. There we go.
You're still good.
You got to be able to listen to your feedback because you're casting for the community. The Dota community is what gave me a job. So if there's something I'm doing wrong that's pissing off the majority of people, that's on me, My casting can't please everyone all the time, but you definitely got to make sure you're putting out a good product. So I remember getting, my first real hate thread. That's kind of your threshold to being a good caster is you got to have those haters. But it was right after Dream League, and it was... someone that made a thread, and it wasn't particularly hateful. I mean, the thread itself had a lot of good information, and it was someone that was critiquing my cast. They didn't like some of the speed or the hype I put into some of the team fights, and that's totally valid. And a lot of the top comments were good feedback on my casting. And you got to be able to sit there, and it stings like hell to scroll through an entire thread of people listing what they don't like about you. But that's what makes you better. That's what keeps that fire lit under your ass and makes you want to get better and move forward.
So I one of the common critiques that I feel like I always run across whenever I see those types of threads is a complaint that perhaps the casters aren't skilled enough to be in a position of authority or to be relaying information. And I feel like often the counter argument is that, well, you can have a breadth of game knowledge and an understanding of strategy and maybe not have the level of execution that a pro does or maybe even a top tier player does. I don't know, where do you fall on that spectrum of needing to be a high skill player versus just having that general breadth of knowledge?
I think my casting really, really improved when I started to work with amazing analysts like Cap and Purge and Trent, like people that actually know what they're talking about, because I don't claim to. I absolutely do not claim to have the knowledge or the mechanics or the skill of a pro player or even a really high-level player. I consider my job to see what's happening on the screen and find those storylines and tell the story to the audience to frame their understanding of the game. But I love when I can bounce it to an analyst and be like, why is he doing this thing? Or what's going to happen next? Because they have that knowledge that I'm not going to claim to have. So I think
for sure,
hypecasters and analysts definitely fill different roles. And I think hypecasters can get away with a little bit less of what's going on, but obviously knowing skill names and interactions and popular builds and team strategies is vital.
So, so you were invited by BTS to cast the qualifiers at TI6. How did that come about?
Oh, that was awesome. That was a Skype message I'll never forget. I was just finished casting a huge marathon day of DPL, and I saw that message from Gods, and I was just over the moon. I think my mom was home at the time. It was the summer after college, so I was staying at home, and I just ran up and hugged her, and she had no idea what was going on, but I felt like I made it. That was my first time where I had been invited out of my home, out of my computer to go cast Dota. I was living in the Dota world.
Speaking of your parents, we've asked a lot of folks who have gone down this path and are pursuing this as their full-time job, as their career. What were your parents like whenever you broke the news to them? Like, hey, so I got this degree in geology and education. I'm gonna cast video games for a living. What was their response? How did they take it well? Were they how did they respond?
I mean,
to
they
that?
had known about it because I had been casting for a year and a half prior to going full time and breaking out. So they kind of knew what was up. They knew I loved it. They knew it was a hobby I was really getting into. But I actually wrote them like a coming out letter, if that sounds really weird, of I found what I want to do. It clicks with me like I've never had anything click with me before. And I really think I can make it. So I'm asking for 1 year of where I can live at home and not pay a rent and just devote my full attention to this. And they were like, all right, you got your year. You get to see if it's going to work out. After a year, I think you really need to reevaluate and see if it's viable. But I've been unbelievably blessed in that it has worked out beyond my wildest expectations.
Are they excited about it, or have they tuned in to watch you do it? I mean, the TI6 was a pretty big event. Is it something that they've tried to look into and see what you're doing? Do they even understand what you're doing?
They love it in a parent way where they know it's making me so happy, and they know now, like, as they see more news articles and videos of big events, that it actually is a thing and not just me alone at my computer. They don't really understand it, and when they try to give me advice, sometimes it's frustrating, but I really do appreciate that they accept that this is what I want to do, and I have that drive. I went at it because I wanted it, and I got what I needed.
What kind of advice do they give you?
Just things about how to prepare for events, and the fact that when I cast, sometimes I say names that they don't understand, and I'm like, yeah, that's a player name. You got to know that. And just advice on, how to work with people in the industry. And it's coming from a very good place, but with everything being so modern and instant communication being what they never grew up with, it's very different.
Yeah, for sure. But in July, you got recruited by Moonduck. Mm-hmm. And how did that happen?
I've been talking with them. I've been friends with Sayori for a while, just personal friends. We used to stack together. And it was just fantastic. Moonduck was thinking about expanding. Me and Trent were on the list of people that they'd been keeping a close eye on in terms of rising talent. And, we had a couple talks. They explained their game plan, and I was totally in. This was my opportunity to actually do this as a career and be part of something bigger than just me sitting in the basement.
When did you make the move to Colorado?
We made the move September 1st was our move-in date, drove cross-country. It was a very fun experience. We actually picked out our house and applied for it while we were at TI6. That was kind of our game plan. We grouped up, had a couple Moonduck meetings about that, and it has been phenomenal. Like, I can't think of anything better about moving to this awesome state and this awesome house with great people.
What are you guys working on currently? I know you just finished up elimination mode, and how was that? That had to have been a blast to do.
Oh, it's always so much fun. I love the tournaments that we do because they're so unique. It's not like just sitting there grinding out more qualifiers with best of 2 brackets and going up. Like, that stuff is fun in moderation, but you got to shake it up because Dota's a game at its core. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be goofy. So it's fun to do stuff like that. Working with Slacks is always great because he just stomps around the house and acts like Slacks, and it's just so good.
Is he ever off?
No, that's just how he is.
Is there ever a... Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's the best, dude.
So what do you guys have on the horizon? What's coming up for Moonduck in the nearest future?
Well, we just had our announcement about Midas mode, that new tournament mode we're working on where there's kind of a stock market and hero prices are going to change. We're going to be working with a bunch of interesting talent, but there's definitely more stuff on the horizon as well that's unannounced, and I gotta keep that one close to the chest till it comes out.
All right, fair enough. We'll allow it. We'll allow it this time. So I've also heard, and it's unavoidable, and it clicked for me because you and I actually like randomly got queued together. Probably about a week or two ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it clicked for me when I remembered your username that apparently you have a maybe unhealthy love of lizards.
My lizard. I don't love all lizards, just my lizard.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, he's the best. I'd watched a nature documentary when I was probably like 10 or 11 on skinks, which are basically like that weird stepping stone between snakes and lizards. So they're really long and squirmy, but they got little feet. And I thought it was so cute. And then when I was like 17, 18, like much older, I realized that, skinks were actually kept as pets and they made good pets. And since then I was like, I need one of these. I want one of these so bad. And then when I was moving into my first apartment, I was like immediately, all right, my parents had a no pets rule. This is my house. Anything goes. And I got myself a baby skink and raised him from when he fit in the palm of my hand. He was 3 weeks old to now like a big 2-foot long sausage.
Wow.
He's super tame.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
So it's just one that you love,
He is
really.
the best. His name's Darwin, and he has the personality of like a bearskin rug, and that like you can just pick him up and put him down. He'll just stay there. He's so chill.
And none of the Moonduckers mind having old
Oh, dude,
old
Sayara
Darwin
is so
around.
scared of him. That was like a caveat of me moving in. I'm like, all right, I'll move into the Moonduck house, but the lizard's coming with me. And he knows how much I love that stupid lizard, so he just kind of looks the other way when that thing's moving around.
So I saw that you participated in the Dungeons and Duckers. It's a series you guys have been running online.
Yep.
I gotta know, were you a D&D fan at all before the Dungeons and Duckers started up?
I mean, I'd been around D&D. Like, my high school group of friends used to play. Most of my boyfriends used to play, but I had never played myself. And I wouldn't really call what we do D&D. It's like a loose bastardization of a role-playing game where Slacks rolls all the dice. But definitely a lot of fun. You get a chance to get inside the psyche of Slacks telling a story. So that's always interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely entertaining videos. I definitely hope you guys keep going on that series. They're a blast to watch. I know you're also working with them on the Moonduck podcast. Speaking of podcasts or other podcasts, you guys have been doing those kind of infrequently. Are there any plans to keep doing that with a little more frequency? Are you enjoying doing them? Are they tough to get out?
Not really tough to get out. We kind of do them when there's a full chunk of stuff to talk about. I think we got that idea that we'd rather have a few of the What the Ducks that are, really really and we can go on forever telling interesting stories than, trying to keep it weekly or something and try to force that authentic interaction, which, can get tough. So when there's big upsets in the community, when there's a lot of drama to talk about, when we all just return from an event and have these crazy stories, that's when we like to do the podcast.
Yeah, fair enough. I know they're always enjoyable, and it's always nice to hear. I mean, especially you guys talk about it because you participate in these events and have such an interesting behind the scenes look at a lot of what's going on. So it's always fascinating to hear for sure. I kind of want to go down a different path here. I wanted to, with potential like esports issues. There were some I know issues surrounding like the Cyclops cast recently with Axe, the first female pro Dota 2 player. And I know that women are typically underrepresented in esports, and it seems like maybe underrepresented, especially in the realm of the world of personalities as well. Do you feel like as a woman you've interacted with, or I guess what's your take as a woman entering the world of esports as a Dota 2 personality? Do you feel a backlash at times from the community because of it? Do you are there issues that you face that you think you might uniquely face as a female caster?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a two-sided issue. I mean, I definitely think it's positive and negative. Positive in that I stand out because I'm a woman, and negative in that I stand out because I'm a woman. It's really easy to get under that magnifying glass, and every mistake you make is blown out of proportion. But, I'll be real. There's probably jobs I got because I was a woman, and that set me apart from other casters. So I think it has been plus and minus, but I don't really have anything to compare it to. I mean, people always ask, what's it like to be a woman in the Dota scene? And I'm like, I have no experience not being a woman in the Dota scene, so I don't really know. It's just kind of how it's always been.
Do you see a lot of misogyny? Because I would imagine, and of course I similarly could say, yeah, I have no idea what it's like to be a woman, obviously, in the Dota 2 realm. But I can't imagine, and I wonder sometimes, just based off of, you see a lot of toxicity even just in pubs, when it comes to for female players alone. I've talked about it on the show before. My girlfriend doesn't use her mic whenever we play. She's had it. She's had enough with hearing somebody.
That's real. In pubs, if I use a mic, I've had people, straight up just call me a cunt and abandon. Like that's where it's at. So there's a lot of toxicity, but you got to keep in mind that 99% of the toxicity comes from people that don't matter. The people at the top of the field, the other casters I work with, the players, the organizers, for the vast majority, they're not sexist and they don't treat me differently because I'm a woman. And when I started casting, I didn't start out with the goal of being a competent woman caster. I set out to be a competent caster. So I think people realize that we're all just doing the same thing, and just because I was born a different gender, it doesn't mean my ability to cast or enjoy Dota is any different. But I know there's definitely, when I cast, there's a bunch of people saying grill or women shouldn't cast, go back to the kitchen, but those people's opinions aren't gonna stop me from getting anywhere. They don't have any real power.
I always hate to bring up I always both hate and feel like I kind of have to bring up that topic whenever we interact, whenever we interview, women within the Dota scene or the Dota community, because I'm with you. Like it seems strange that it even warrants a conversation, or that it's even a question that has to enter my mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people
it drives me nuts
that want full equality and want women to be equally represented, and that's nice, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I think when you look at the women that are successful in the esports scene and really in the professional world in general, they're there at the top because they don't really care about being a woman. If I had marketed myself as, I'm good at casting as a woman, that would mean my career path is very different, because there could be another woman that comes along that's better than me and takes my spot. So I got to hold my own way up at the top without caring about gender, because that's not what it's about. It's about Dota at the core.
What have been some of your highlights in recent months, even your entire career? Like, what have been some of your favorite games to cast, your favorite moments?
Oh man, my favorite moment was probably my TI invite, and I know that's like obvious, but I had just finished 3 out of 6 series that I was doing for DPL, so it was about 2 a.m. my time. I'd been sitting on my computer all alone. I was, sweaty, greasy hair, and I checked my email between game 1 and game 2 of a series, and I saw that I got an email from Bruno, and I was like, there's no way, this is absolutely a prank. I saw the Valve letterhead, and I'm like, this is 100% a prank, and I just read it, and it's like, we would want to know if you'd like to join us at the International, and I was completely speechless. I think I started running around playing The Floor is Lava. I couldn't focus on any particular thought for a while, because it was the most amazing validation I've ever felt in my life. Everything I'd worked for was worth it. This was the highest goal I'd ever set for myself. Never think I needed to get there. And, 2 months after I turned full-time casting, here I am with a TI invite. And there's people that say, I don't deserve it, or, there's other people that deserved it more. Maybe, but this absolutely changed my life, and I can't imagine where I'd be without that.
Yeah, I can only imagine that was a pretty amazing moment. That's of course.
Yeah, I called
How could it not be?
an ex-boyfriend at the time and just started crying hysterically over the phone because that's the only sound I could make. And he was really concerned. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you safe? Are you being attacked?" And finally I managed to get out. I'm going to TI. They invited me to TI. Oh, it was amazing. I don't think I've ever felt concentrated joy like that.
Of course. It's got to be one of the... I can only imagine that's one of the more thrilling moments. And I think I would have had the exact same reaction. My mind would have immediately gone to prank. And I know some people that would be capable of it.
It's just the Bruno was the sender of the email. And I'm like, this isn't real. Oh, someone just changed their Gmail name to Bruno and they're fucking with me.
So you do play. You obviously get to play some Dota. I got to play that game with you a while back. Did you ever get your 35-minute time quest?
I did immediately following a game where we ended in 35 minutes and 30 seconds. So that was a little tilting.
Oh.
Now, but I'm doing all right, just pubbing around, having some fun.
Who do you like to play? I mean, you played Drow in that game that we were playing that night, obviously because we were trying to finish in under 35. But who are your go-to heroes? Who are your go-to picks?
Right now I've been playing a lot of Templar Assassin, but I think that's just a phase. I'm not particularly great. I like me a Chaos Knight, mostly just because I have terrible issues with knowing when it's time to disengage, and Chaos Knight's one of those heroes you can just go full Divine mode and just keep sucking people in and keep the fight going. So definitely a great playstyle mesh with him.
Do you typically play core? Do you prefer that position?
I actually used to support a lot. I spent 2 years doing nothing but position 5, but now I've been playing a lot of core. When I started stacking up with friends that are newer to Dota, it's easier just to play core because at least there's someone reliable on your core who can carry the game if shit gets out of hand. It's a lot easier to redeem a game when there's a Crystal Maiden that's 0-10 than when there's a sniper that's 0-15.
So, and now that we've settled into this post 7.0 world, because I feel like that was, at least for me, that felt like the biggest change to the game since I'd started playing was the jump from 6.8 whatever we were at to 7.0. Are you happy with all the changes that they've made? The skill trees? Do you feel like Dota's going in a generally positive direction?
I mean, I'll admit, I freaked the fuck out when that 7.0 patch came. I was like, what the hell did they just do to Dota? What are shrines? The fuck are all these bounty runes doing on the map? But I think I adjusted way quicker than I thought I would, and I don't really remember what it was like to play without skill trees, where you just kind of pumped shit into stats when you got it.
Yeah.
Definitely a good upgrade. I think there's things that may still need to be tweaked, but I think it has kind of moved the game into its next generation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I kind of responded pretty similarly. I was like, man, maybe it's just because Dota players and gamers in general are somewhat reluctant to or somewhat resistant to change. I don't know. That's kind of been my experience with a lot of gamers. And so I'm sure that was kind of everybody's initial response is like, what the hell is this? Why did they change this game? Why would you try to break Dota?
Yeah, I looked at it as kind of that opportunity to separate the casters that are really in it from the casters that are just kind of comfortable. So right after 7.0 came out, I made a flashcard for every hero and every change, marked down every talent tree, and just flipped through those on a plane ride and got really familiar with that. And I feel like it definitely helped me get more comfortable about just even checking skill trees during games, knowing which skill trees are powerful, which choices are made most frequently. So it's another opportunity to kind of set yourself apart from the pack there.
That's a great example of kind of what I wanted to talk to you about as well is just kind of persistence and what goes into and kind of the hard work that's involved in probably anything content related, at least from our realm here at DotP. I mean, it's tough to keep at it. We've talked before on the show, like, hey, if you're gonna do something, you got to be consistent with it. You got to work hard at it. You got to keep going. And I mean, there are a lot of people out there who, like we said before, probably want to get into casting. That type of hard work, that type of dedication to have to sit down and make flashcards and go through it. I mean, is that something you have to do constantly? Is it something you're always working on?
Yeah, absolutely. Like every pub game is an opportunity to learn a new interaction, a new mechanic. You've got to be hungry for Dota. You got to be hungry to learn it all and take yourself to the next level, or else you're not going to make it. I think I've always been a very determined person, and determined saying that lightly. I've been a very stubborn person all my life, and I set my mind to Dota, and I will complete the challenge. I will stick with it and learn everything I can possibly soak up. And I think that's what it takes. If you want to make it in the esports world, you have to want it like nothing else. You got to have that fire burning constantly, and you got to watch out for burnout. I mean, you can't be 100% spot on with your content creation all the time. You got to be a little bit cautious about making sure you're not going too hard. Keep yourself healthy, because as soon as your body goes too far and you hit that switch of like, ugh, Dota's become work, I'm bored, that's when you kind of lose it all.
What have been some of the weirdest moments or funniest moments that you've had being there at the Moonduck house with everybody?
Oh my. Most of them involve slacks, believe it or not. There's been a couple of nights where I'm just sitting here pubbing on my computer, like headphones turned up, I got the music blasting, not paying attention to my surroundings, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. It's midnight. No one else should be up in the house, and I just turn and Slacks is wearing like a silicone pug mask. Screamed a little bit. But
Yeah, that would be pretty frightening.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great to be surrounded by people that have the same interests. I mean, I've lived with roommates before in college and apartments after college, but this is different. It feels like these are my people.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't ask. So how is it that you knew Proud or were familiar with Proud?
Oh yeah, I actually knew Proud before I ever heard about DotP or any of that. My boyfriend at the time went to the same college as Proud, and there was a Dota club at their school, and I joined in because I just like stacking with them or whatnot. So I would see him posting on message boards and asking people wanted to stack, and then didn't really realize he had a job here.
Yeah, I think he's been with us for over a year now. I want to say maybe like a year and a half.
Yeah, super cool dude.
He's a zany boy.
Yeah, we hung out a little bit on my flight out from was it TI or California? One of those. He was at the airport in the same terminal as me, so we just hung out and waited for planes together.
Yeah, he's a character. That was actually the first time we got to meet him in person. Was at TI.
Which esports personality isn't a real character? I think you got to be a special kind of crazy to really want to do this full time and devote yourself to it.
Yeah, that's probably true. So speaking of careers in esports, do you ever worry? I know one of the big questions that we always get asked, and I'm sure every family member I've had has asked me some iteration of this question. Do you ever worry about the day that Dota goes away, the day that Dota dies? Is that ever something that is kind of in the back of your head? And if so, how do you cope with it? What's your strategy? What is your kind of pre-programmed strategy or response to what you think you might do in that situation?
Oh yeah,
how do you handle it?
That thought comes up every single day. I've built my following entirely in Dota, and there's going to be a day where it kind of turns into that StarCraft 2, where there's that very small, very dedicated community, but there's no real money in it. There's no real active tournaments or leagues going on. It's scary. I think I got to go do the best I can do here, try to find that next upcoming esport and maybe make the jump when it's time. But, I've thought to myself a lot that even if I leave esports right now, or esports just crashes and there's nothing left of it, this has been some of the best job experience I've ever gotten. I'm working in a professional setting with people all over the world, trying to, go across language barriers, time zone barriers. I've learned how to work tournaments and make people cooperate even when they're not necessarily inclined to. But it's great. You learn how to conduct yourself in a professional manner, so there's always that to fall back on.
Yeah, it's weird to think about, and certainly Dota feels like it has maybe a bit more longevity than StarCraft did. I've talked on the show 100 times. Probably people are sick of it, but StarCraft always felt to me like it was kind of big for a very brief amount of time and then went away, and Dota kind of feels like it has a slow build.
Games are finite though. I don't think Dota will still be around in 10 years. I think there'll be something that comes and takes its place, occupies that same niche, and appeals to the same people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess kind of in that vein as well. Does it worry you at all? We were talking recently. I think we had Malastrix on last week, earlier this week actually for you and me, but for listeners last week. And he was talking about the decline of Reddit viewership. Have you heard about anything about that?
I think it's you can't entirely gauge the community on that. I think that appeals to a small percentage of the population that are really invested and want to make Dota more than just a hobby. But I mean, the numbers are still going in a decent direction. I think Dota, maybe has hit its peak and it's starting that very slow decline. We've got a couple of really good years left before it becomes that kind of wasteland, but I don't think it's a huge issue right now. I think we've got a couple more TIs in us before the community starts to fizzle.
Well, here's hoping, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely enjoyable, and it's but I'll say I think I'm similar to you in that like Dota was kind of the first game that ever really captured me. Maybe in that big of a way, it was definitely the first game that really drew me into, well, obviously loving it enough to try to create content for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first game I've ever played that I feel like I am comfortable living in its world, if that makes sense. I enjoy the fans, I enjoy the interaction, I like the lore, I like the gameplay, I like the esports scene behind it, and it's a safe place to retreat. I mean, there's been a lot of times in the past year where I really couldn't deal with stuff going on in the real world, and I needed that enclosed world that's cut off from everything else that just exists on its own.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, whenever you're not doing Dota, what do you like to do? What does AnneeDroid enjoy?
I've been pretty active here since we moved to Colorado. Lots of bike rides, lots of hikes, gorgeous mountains right near us. Definitely like animals, so watching a lot of animal shows, and went to the zoo once or twice and playing with any dog that I find. God, I want a dog so bad. But yeah, just a lot of Dota focus since moving into the Moonduck house. We're kind of setting up our social life. Obviously, transplant from Boston to Colorado, knowing no one in the area is pretty culture shock. So just trying to meet new people and figure out how to do here.
Have you ever lived anywhere else besides New York and Boston, in those areas? Did you guys ever move around as a kid or anything like that?
No, I always grew up in the Boston area, and then went to college in Saratoga, New York, spent a year in Troy, New York. 100% don't recommend that. But cheap apartments, and was near a college that I was taking classes at during the summer, so it's all right. But yeah, Denver has just clicked like nowhere else. It's just a great vibe.
Yeah, we do things right out here in the West or Midwest or however they've decided to term this little region of America. It's nice. It's comfy. I've enjoyed it. I moved out to Salt Lake City like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and I spent a lot of time back east, just outside of Philadelphia. So worked our way into Boston and into Baltimore actually quite a bit more, but. Always enjoyed New England. I mean, it's a fascinating area, and I always tell people like they don't know how out here. They're the oldest building is maybe 75 or 85 years old.
Yeah.
You see a lot of that, and so I always tell people like, yeah, you have no idea how old buildings can be. All right, and New England pales in comparison to Europe. So you guys have no idea what an old building is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different vibe, though. In New England, everyone I found was always kind of in a rush to get places, and just a little bit not willing to slow down and smell the roses. And I have always been very go with the flow, loosey goosey. So I just love it out here in Colorado, and yeah, it's been great. I don't miss
the
weather
history, I guess,
at all.
Oh God!
I mean,
no, not the
my
weather.
parents sent me pictures of our yard, which has like 15 or 20 feet of snow piled on it from the plows, and it's been 60 degrees like every day here in February, so can't say I'm that jealous.
Yeah, that's for sure. The weather is the thing to admire here, and beautiful summers. That's for damn sure. Well, AnneeDroid, I'm gonna let you go. I've eaten up too much of your time already, probably. I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking with us and letting us know a little bit about you and what's been going on over there at Moonduck.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys want to find AnneeDroid, you can follow her on Twitter. It's at AnneeDroid. That's ANNEE Droid. AnneeDroid. Android. Why do I do that?
It's okay.
It's because of the two E's.
Fun fact, the one with
My
one E
brain-
was taken when I made accounts for stuff.
Oh,
That's the only
that's
reason
why.
there's two E's.
I wouldn't say Annie if it wasn't for the double E.
Blame the
I
person
wouldn't.
that took it before me.
All right, you guys hop on there. You guys know what to do. You need to tweet at Android and let them know that whoever that is, needs to relinquish control of that account immediately. No, I know. Well, now you probably got it. Now everybody knows you with the 2 E's. So
Yeah, it's all right.
That's
People
not
just
bad.
call me Annie, like with 2 E's instead of an IE, which works out because that's my name anyway. So it's all set.
That's just me screwing things up. So that's good. That's great. It makes me look like a professional interviewer. So that's what
Don't
I'm
sweat
going
it,
for.
man. It
That's
happens all the
vibe
time.
That's the vibe I'm going for here on this show. Well, yeah, you can follow Android on Twitter at ANNEDroid, and you can, of course, find Moonduck and her work over at MoonduckTV. You've got a Facebook as well, right?
Yeah, I don't use it nearly as much as my Twitter. It's just at
Okay.
Android. Just search it up.
All right.
Should be there.
And what's the next event? What's the next cast on the horizon, or do you have that slated out yet?
Mr. Cat, dude. Get pumped. More SEA Dota coming at you. We're going to finish out the group stages and the brackets, hop into the playoffs soon.
All right. And where could folks find that if they want to find it?
Oh, it's down the rabbit hole. No, just go to twitch.tv/MoonduckTV, and it is on in the extremely early mornings here in the lovely Colorado. It starts at 4 a.m.
Oh, that's brutal.
A little bit.
Yeah. Whenever you have those early casts, what do? Do you pull in all? Do you sleep in the day before and then pull an all-nighter that night, or do you get up early the day before and try to get to sleep really early the night of?
I just usually nap it out until I feel like I'm too tired to go on, and then reset the sleep schedule from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Tell everybody over at the Moonduck house we said hello. Zayori Slacks. We love them all. They're great folks, and we appreciate everything you guys do here for DotP. It's always great to have one of you guys on.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Enjoy your day.
All right, will do. Until next time, folks, this is Cyphus for Android. I did it right at the end, at least. Got it right at the end. Saying good luck and Godspeed.